Hi, this is Bill Hader.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Bill Hader. Bill Hader.
Hello and welcome again to We Are Hater. I'm Deej Behrens, your co-host.
And she's our creator, and I'm Casey Killingsworth, your other co-host and non-creator of this podcast.
But we did kind of have a meet cute at the Saturday Night Network.
I mean, a slightly delayed meet cute, but, you know, we got together and started on this nonetheless, so.
Yes. And of course, the reason why I mentioned meet cutes is because we are covering Bill Hader's appearances on the Mindy Project. Before we get started, I just want to go back a bit to the 50th. As we discussed, a lot of us were not very happy that Bill wasn't there. It has been reported since the 50th that a number of people who attended got COVID. I'm kind of thinking now that maybe it was okay if Bill missed the 50, because I know he has an autoimmune condition. He takes immunosuppressants to help with that. I think it was connected to his exploding eye, as we call it. It hasn't been active in a while, but there's actually a Twitter account for Bill's left eye, which is the one that's kind of extra squinty, because what had happened was a blood vessel got inflamed in his eye. So he's had a number of procedures. I'm feeling a little bit better now about Bill not being at the 50th, because at least he didn't get COVID. Because on this week's episode of Saturday Night Live, which was the
Shane Gillis and Tate McRae episode.
Yes, and please don't have Shane Gillis on again. It just doesn't work. Chloe Fineman was absent for the episode because she got COVID. Hopefully that makes other Bill fans feel a little bit better. So, because we definitely don't want Bill to get sick.
Yeah. And with that, I think we can move on with the rest of this episode.
The Mindy Project started on Fox back in 2012. Originally I thought that maybe they did Inside Out first, then Mindy Project, but this was actually prior to working on the Inside Out. He appeared on 5 episodes on the first 2 seasons. He was supposed to appear on the 4th season, but I guess for some reason that just didn't work out. For those who haven't watched the Mindy Project, created by Mindy Kaling, who most know as Kelly Kapoor from The Office. In this, she is Dr. Mindy Lahi, an OBGYN in New York City. Mindy is a lifelong romantic comedy fanatic, and from viewing so many over the years, it has colored her ideas regarding romantic relationships. In the pilot, she encounters Bill as Dr. Tom McDougal, an oral surgeon. They are in an elevator at the hospital, and it stops and they are stuck. Through drop files and slightly askew hair, they start a relationship where 2 months later, she moves in with him. Fast forward a bit, Tom dumps her for the Serbian woman who runs the bagel stand at the hospital. We're never really quite sure if it's an attraction to her or the opportunity to fix her incredibly bad teeth. But eventually, we wind up with Mindy giving a speech at Tom's wedding. And she, of course, is spiraling. She was drinking a whole bunch, and she goes through this big speech with all of Tom's flaws.
One of the time that Tom told me, when we were having sex, that he wanted to marry me and make me pregnant with 6 babies. Did you guys know about that? Which I really wanted to.
Hey.
But that didn't end up happening. Because I think I was too old. I mean, I know that I was too old. That's what you said to me.
Not what I said.
When you broke up with me. Sorry, you said you wanted to build a future with someone with more years to share.
That is what I said.
Doesn't matter, because here you are, getting married to the Serbian bagel girl. By the way, are we 100% sure that she is not a war criminal? Oh, don't look at me like that. Am I the only person here who saw Angelina Jolie's movie?
She's not a war criminal.
Whatever, you guys. I'm so happy for you. I only want the best for the 2 of you. One of you.
Let's wrap it up.
So she makes a complete fool of herself at the wedding, and eventually ends up on a bike, slightly drunk, in somebody's pool. And so once we go through this flashback, then it goes over to present day, where she's at the police station being questioned by a police officer. So that is pretty much the extent of his part in the pilot.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pilot just fine. I'm not a huge rom-com guy, but there was enough there to keep me going. I did like how it just starts out. Mindy's just narrating. She's been obsessed with these romantic comedies from youth all her life. And somehow, despite being a trained medical professional, Mindy seems to have some trouble separating real life from the romantic comedy she's been obsessed with since she was a little girl. And yet, at least this pilot seems to play out like a rom-com that's
Yeah.
it has one of two main flaws. It's either too self-aware for its own good, or just all the characters immediately come across too self-involved and narcissistic for a sitcom, the exact right amount of self-involvement and narcissism for an actual rom-com. But, after a few episodes, it seems to, work out that imbalance with, its own characters. But one thing I can tell you from the pilot, it doesn't quite work as well as a deconstruction of the rom-com genre as well as it thinks it does, but it's also a Fox sitcom, so it seems like it's trying to figure out what it is from the pilot, but it figures out enough of what it wants to do early on. And I did like it starts with Mindy telling us about her past, how she got into rom-coms, how she met Tom, and then randomly at some point, just this flashback is interrupted by a cop who's like, hey, what does this have to do with us arresting you and interrogating you? And she's like, I'm getting to that. And she explained she got drunk, made a scene at his wedding, then just rode off on a bicycle and ended up. So she's arrested for public intoxication, theft, and disorderly conduct. She stole a bicycle and took it to the bottom of a pool where she started talking to a Barbie doll who convinced
I like
her.
That part.
Barbie doll convinced her to, go her own way. Mindy takes on, she needs new clients for her practice, so she ends up taking an uninsured Middle Eastern woman who doesn't speak English as a patient. This somehow ties into her love life, saying that she has trouble saying no, which is like, one time I left a flea market with a samurai sword, and that made me chuckle. That's how badly she has trouble saying no. The way this progresses, Mindy just barely stops herself from hooking up with one of her two dickhead male co-workers in her office, the one with the British accent, who, I'm sorry, his name I never bothered to learn if they gave him one. But
that would be Jeremy.
Jeremy, yeah. So Mindy and Jeremy just stopped themselves from hooking up. So that may be the one time this works as a deconstruction of the rom-com. Then she's set up on a blind date with Ed Helms after her two worst male co-workers subtly nag and hit on her. But her date is cut short when her new patient from earlier is delivering a baby. But, she seems to bond with Danny over when Harry met Sally, and some Deadliest Catch type show with a bunch of guys on a fishing boat, may have to do with sharks. And yeah, Danny's her other co-worker who's just kind of louder and more Jersey.
And definitely competitive.
Yeah, so she bonds with Danny. They bond, but I don't know if they ever hook up because they're co-workers.
Some of the fun highlights, which will actually come to play in later episodes, like how Tom will always cover years ago, if you start talking about an episode of TV he has not seen yet. And the other line I really like from the Barbie.
You are acting like a idiot. If you don't pull it together, no one will ever love you. At least I have a boyfriend. And when that hot, mean doll pointed out that even she had a boyfriend, I just started to cry.
And speaking of deconstructing rom-coms, nothing that does it better than the film We Came Together.
I've vaguely heard of that one.
Yeah, it's with Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler and Bill Hader. They're definitely in the... No, realistically, I only watched the episodes with Bill in them. I'm not sure if I would watch the whole series for me, but I definitely do like the Bill bits. So the next one is as the fourth episode, Halloween. And Mindy wrestles with whether or not she should take things one step further with her new beau. And Josh, Danny, and Jeremy visit the DMV to take the driver's test, a task Danny has failed countless times in the past. So it is Halloween time. So on this episode, she actually runs into Tom at the hospital, and quite literally, when she's walking towards him, she opens the door and basically smashes him in the face with the door. Definitely an abrupt meeting this time rather than a meet cute. And he didn't want to be left alone with her. And of course, he starts bleeding, so she takes him in to fix his wounds. They have this one exchange where I was like, "Oh, hey, I still owe you a wedding gift."
Is there anything on the registry that you still need?
Go back in time and don't ruin my wedding.
Tom, I'm sorry, okay? I'm really sorry.
And they're talking about the blonde, describes him as...
Just tell me about Blondie. Who's this guy?
His name is Josh, and he is an attorney for NBA players. He is definitely confident, very confident. Almost too confident, like he can be sometimes a little obnoxious, I think, but he's very funny. Not funny in the way that you like want to laugh all the time, but you're kind of like, it offends me.
So he's a jerk.
He's just, I wouldn't necessarily like curl up with him and watch Breaking Bad. Don't say anything about Breaking Bad. I haven't seen season 5 yet. And of course, he does the Bill Hader.
You are so weird about
spoilers. No, you're doing it right now.
If
Don't
you're
say it.
obsessed
Don't spoil
with
it.
TV,
DVD,
why don't you keep up with it in a timely way? I just said Breaking Bad, Tom.
You
You
say
always freak
one
out about
word,
spoilers.
it
Okay.
ruins the whole thing.
I stopped talking about
You
it.
done? You done?
Yeah.
We're not talking about it? Okay.
But later on in the episode, the nurse that works at has never seen Tom, has only heard about him. So they go to Tom's Facebook page. The top banner is a sonogram. So not only does she no longer have Tom, but she is also still married and having a baby.
Yeah, I like the idea that someone would post a sonogram as the banner photo at the top of their Facebook page. Like, yeah, that's not the way people post sonograms on Facebook. And
Oh, you'd be surprised.
I did like how this show also kind of commented on the why would like a meet-cute rom-com have this level of physical humor when Mindy and Tom see each other and literally bump into each other and need to get stitches. So that's another deconstruction of rom-coms that works. And yeah, Ike Barinholtz was a great addition to this show. Yeah, I did like Mindy having to find a last-minute costume to a Halloween party that will blow Josh's mind, the blonde character's name. So I chuckled at her thinking, hey, maybe I should cut a cleavage hole out of this crayon costume. But then Barinholtz convinces Mindy to come up with a funny costume. And I like the idea of Bill, her having a clip of Bill's character, Tom McDougal. He spit out a bite of pizza that was too hot. That was funny. One last comment I'd like to make. It slowly dawned on me by the end of this episode that I should recognize who Josh was. And, not as much from his face, but just from his dialogue and his, rhythms and speech patterns. So Josh, the blonde guy Mindy was seeing, Josh is played by an actor named Tommy Dewey, who also just recently played Michael O'Donoghue in 2024 Saturday Night, the biopic about the behind the scenes of the first Saturday Night. And
cool.
And he played O'Donoghue, and he played him well. It was one of those performances that's like more about capturing the attitude of the person they're playing than like getting.
Oh, and he definitely had attitude. That is for sure.
Yeah, the attitude, but he didn't have the horrible like pink comb over that Michael O'Donoghue really had. But
yeah.
In this like first 4 episode run of the Mindy Project, Dr. Tom McDougal seems to be used in much the same way that the characters of Jane Curtin, Lorraine Newman, and Gilda Radner were used in Saturday Night to indirectly motivate, the main characters, Chevy Chase, Stan Aykroyd, Garrett Morris, and John Belushi through their own hero's journey of finding their purpose on the show or why they have to be there. But on the Mindy Project, Dr. Tom McDougal is there to motivate Mindy along her way of finding her own path toward love, her own heroine's journey, as it were.
Yeah. There's a couple bits of the hospital that I really like. While Mindy is tending to his stitches, of a couple of precautions that Tom takes.
I was recording this conversation in case you threatened me, but now I'm going to stop.
Aw, who's that?
Orderly, I asked to tackle you in case you try to hurt me again.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's kind of another cliched trope of rom-coms where like the main female character is just comes off too much like an insane maniac or a dangerous person for their own good because they're too pinhole laser focused on finding the one guy. But I don't really want to pick apart this too much. So
Yeah.
one of the last episodes of season 1, Frat Party.
Yeah, definitely one of the funner ones. There's so much development in there, it's crazy. So, Frat Party, episode 23 of season 1. Mindy takes a young medical student to pass on her wisdom tune and soon find herself at a college frat party, where an encounter with a former flame has disastrous consequences. Yeah, so she's mentoring this medical student. Eventually they go to this frat party, and who should be there dancing at the side is, of course, Tom McDougal, who is apparently some cheesy old loser who was in the frat in, like, the 90s. And he is trying to get people, like, to dance around him, and then, of course, he sees Mindy. Anytime they actually see each other, they have these slow-motion romantic music going on in the back.
Form a circle around me, dancing. You ladies want to dance with me?
I am Mindy, obstetrics and gynecology.
Tom, oral surgery.
Oh, God. Okay, that cheesy old loser is the guy I almost married. Tom!
Things have not gone so well for Tom McDougal. Oh yeah, and if you're picky about spoilers, there's going to be tons of spoilers in this. So there was a review of the episode that described Tom as a walking, living midlife crisis. And so he's just trying to have some fun and get into things.
How is your wife doing?
She's good. She's good. Yeah, she's gone. She went back to Serbia, but that's cool. Whatevs.
Last time I saw you, you were expecting a baby.
Yeah, it turns out the baby looked a lot like her ex-boyfriend, Boris Lovko.
Hey, that's awful.
No, it's a good thing, you know? That means they were sleeping with each other while we were married.
Yeah, I get the implication.
I didn't even masturbate when we were married.
So what happened earlier in the episode is by this time, Mindy is dating a priest.
The guy Mindy was seeing at the beginning of this episode,
Yes.
his name's Casey.
Casey, thank you. She was informed by him that day that he is going to Haiti for a year, assist in relief efforts down there. Who shows up at the frat party? Father Casey is there drunk and gets into it with Tom. And the fight that those two have is absolutely hilarious. And it's not like a real action kind of fight. There's this really great song from the show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend called Real Life Fighting is Awkward. They're kind of slapping at each other. They're taunting each other.
Punch your teeth down your throat! I'm an orthodontist. I got buckets of teeth. I'm a minister. You're trying to kill a minister.
Tom manages to pin Casey on top of the foosball table and starts flicking the sticks with the foosball guys to his face. After this, he sort of yells out to Mindy, asking what did she see in Tom.
Mindy, why'd you date this dude?
Because I got a huge penis!
While she's at the party, she's trying to keep the girl she's mentoring off a stripper pole that's at the frat. It was also a fun idea with the theme of the party was no glassware, so you could bring your own container to put your drink in, but it can't be an actual glass. So some people have a fishbowl. Mindy didn't know that, so the only thing she had was the cap for her lipstick.
I like this one a lot. Casey, played by Anders Holm from Workaholics. I like there's a PG-13 deconstruction of why shower sex doesn't work. That was cute. And Mindy had a line about how much Casey looks like the villain in a National Lampoon movie. That was funny. And I like Morgan, Ike Barinholtz's character. He's still a comedic highlight of this show as Danny and Jeremy were fighting with him over the Delorias, the other guys who wanted to offer him a job at their medical practice. And yeah, Tom, he's pretty down. He has no friends and he got shot here. And then Mindy consoles Tom through his breakup and they both come to terms with their age. They're too old to be at frat parties. Like, kind of reminded me of Knocked Up with Leslie Mann and Katherine Iger realizing they're too old to be at a club.
Right, yeah, I remember that scene.
But I like Mindy trying to stop Katie and another girl from pole dancing Then she accidentally pole dances herself while trying to dismantle the stripper poles so no other girls can pole dance for these guys' satisfaction. And then Katie gives Mindy a reality check of her own before Tom meets Casey and the hilarious fight ensues. And yeah, this might be the strongest episode out of the 5 I've seen. Definitely Bill's funniest moment. And then Mindy realizes she was a great mentor to Katie after all, because Mindy showed her how much better she can do and what more she can achieve.
Yeah.
And
well,
then
even Tom says she shouldn't settle. So,
and then Father Casey realizes he's serious about Mindy, so that's why he goes to Haiti for a year, because now is the time to do that for his career. Because if they have a baby, they can't do that. He can't go to Haiti if they have a baby together. So they make out in an elevator, and Morgan takes cell phone photos. And Deej, do you have any other comments?
First talking to Mindy, the guy behind him basically shoves his head.
Pretty awesome. Loser. All right. That's just what we do, man. He's just having a good time. See? Just playing around. We shove heads. Okay. Sorry. Sorry. These guys love me.
Is Tom's friend anyone here can talk to?
I have no friends.
That's one of the episodes I go back to quite often if I really want a good laugh.
And
So what?
Go ahead.
No, I was go. You go.
Yeah, and before we move on, the buckets full of teeth thing reminded me of a Dana Gould stand-up bit about how when you have kids, you end up with like just an envelope full of their baby teeth, because they tell them about the tooth fairy. They put their teeth under the pillow, then you come in and put some change under it, and then you're just left with like at least an envelope full of your children's teeth, which you can't get rid of because they're a part of your child, and they may be the only part, one of the few parts of your child you have left when they grow up and leave home.
Yeah, there's actually a person I followed on YouTube. There's a creator I follow on YouTube named Jenny Lorenzo, who does a lot of videos and sketches regarding Hispanic culture. Bad families actually save the baby teeth and make them into earrings sometimes. But hey, no judgment. It's your culture. I'm definitely not gonna get all judgy on that. He appears next in the second episode, The Other Dr. L. Mindy has actually just got back from Haiti when she was visiting Casey, and she had to come back for various reasons. And in the meantime, there's been another Dr. L.
James Franco is the actor.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Oh yeah. So apparently, the James Franco has been around the practice as Paul, who is a marriage counselor, and he has taken the occupation of her office. Yeah. So she was supposed to be gone for a year. So I guess she had decided to, but then got back 8 months early. So because she just didn't like being in Haiti, and I can understand if you're not really built for that kind of thing. Is Danny has broken up with a wife, and he is currently very depressed about this. So he's part of this support group, which also features Tom McDougal. Pretty sure that the place where they're playing at a YMCA is the same basketball court that they used in Trainwreck, because the layout is similar.
Yeah, it's
got the windows and everything there. So that's what happens. He goes to the support group where they basically they play basketball, including Chris Humphries, who's a prominent basketball player at the time. So they have they call themselves the Getting Over a Gang. Jeremy is trying to convince Danny that this is not a healthy place for you to be.
Oh, down! Hey, foul, man. Chris Humphries, no dunking. WNBA rules.
Give me the gun.
What gun? What are you talking about?
This is clearly a suicide ring.
Oh, it's not.
Suicide? Yeah, would a suicidal loser drain a shot like this?
Bounces off the basket into a fire extinguisher on the wall. They're at a bar later on where Mindy runs into Tom with the guys he was playing basketball with. He is still in this midlife crisis mode. Some women buy them some shots. And normally, the normal thing to do would be to say thank you, accept these gracefully. But he ends up pouring them on the table.
Thank you very much, ladies. This is what we think of your drinks.
Not the
Whoa, Tom,
talent shows.
whoa.
Yeah. You don't pick us. We pick you.
Whoa, Tom.
Bounce.
Tom, they seem nice enough.
Oh, no. They seem nice enough. Next thing you know, We go home with these girls, then you're married, and then you find a condom in your dog poop. And you go, whoa, someone having sex with my dog? Then you realize, no, your wife is having sex with someone and the dog ate the condom.
Trying to act cool when he was playing basketball, but he's just very, very, very much bitter, or as Jeremy says, that Tom is unhinged. Definitely being a bit of a dick. And of course, once he sees Mindy, very awkward point where she tries to hug her, where she goes for a hug, but then he's actually trying to kiss her. And then she ends up doing someone's calling me, and like no one's calling her. This is like, okay, I need to get away from this situation. He does realize after they're playing basketball again with, once again, Chris Humphries.
A little bit more about Chris Humphries. Here's a bit of trivia for you. Seems like the main reason he cameoed in this was to, at the end, he convinces Danny how, he should have the breakup, come back to work, because you don't want to end up like me, just home alone on Saturday nights, watching these trashy reality TV shows. Not going to mention which ones, and I'm going to mention which one I think it is because of this one thing I know about him. It's probably Keeping Up with the Kardashians, because as it turns out, this was just a couple of years after Chris Humphries was the first guy that Kim Kardashian married for 72 hours before they got divorced.
That's why I kind of recognize the name. Okay.
And yeah, I remember that. People were thinking of boycotting them for that because all the money that got spent on a marriage that lasted 3 days, the length of a flu, all the gifts they got, they should have just donated that to charity.
They did a sketch about that on SNL.
Yeah, and I think Bill was a narrator in that.
Their wedding stole your heart. Now, get ready for the latest Kardashian event.
Whoopsies, I got divorced.
Kim's fairy tale divorce.
And one other thing I also remember was around that time, Weird Al Yankovic had tweeted, 72 days is now a new unit of time known as a Kardash. A couple other things from this episode I wanted to mention. So this episode starts with Father Casey and Mindy on a Skype video chat from Haiti.
Oh, yeah.
And he's not having a good time there. At one point he says, a bat flew into my mouth, which plays a lot differently 12 years later, I'll say that. And it's not the only thing in this that didn't age well. I know James Franco's in this probably to kind of poke fun at his own run on General Hospital, I think, some soap opera he was on.
It was General Hospital, yeah.
Yeah, and he's friends with Bill and a lot of these people from doing movies and just working together in Hollywood. So, and yeah, it's, again, I see why they were there at the time.
Back then, he was involved in a lot of Judd Apatow projects, so,
And we find out Mindy lost her patience and her office. So her new office is a janitor's closet with a burning hot pipe that Morgan dries his undies and swimsuits on. It's like watching this show in like the Machete Order is and yeah, just explain the Machete Order. Watching Star Wars in the order of the first one from 77, then Empire Strikes Back, then episodes 2 and 3, and then 6, but skipping 1. So, 2 and 3 serve as flashbacks. So we're watching the Mindy Project out of order, and you cut out what's the least crucial stories here. So
there's an amusing bit when Tom first encounters Mindy in the bar, and he notices the engagement ring on her hand, and that she is engaged to Casey.
Whoa, hey! Is that an engagement ring?
Yeah, it is. I did it. I got engaged.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
So happy for you.
Okay, I feel your penis against my thigh.
Oh,
Here.
who's the lucky guy?
His name is Casey, actually. You know him.
Yeah, he kicked my ass. I remember that.
He insinuates that she's at the bar to actually try to find some ween, or being on Weenus Patrol.
You're on Weenus Patrol, Lieutenant.
I'm not on Weenus Patrol.
and Mindy plans to use Dr. L's lightweight alcohol status against him to get her office and patients back, as well as her status as the original Dr. L. Mindy drags a near unconscious Paul home and kisses him on the lips. Yikes. And then he connects with Christina, played by Chloe Sevigny, who I believe is Danny's ex. They hook up, but there's not even like 10 minutes before we can't let Danny know, but then they just had to spill it. That's why Danny leaves the practice, goes plays basketball, and that was that. That was kind of an awkward episode to talk about, but it definitely has its moments.
Well, it's all full of awkwardness, especially Tom just not being in the best place still.
It's like these last couple episodes, the specific type of comedy that could have only existed and played well in the early 2010s, in both the good way and the bad way. Like the good way, the frat party episode is it's just fun chaos, or these cameos or just whatever that hadn't just aged horribly. We'll skip ahead a bit to the last of these 5 episodes of the Mindy Project that Bill was in, and
my absolute favorite one.
This one's titled Indian BBW, and I'll throw it back to Deej to explain that.
So this was episode 16. By this time, Mindy and Danny are just starting a relationship. Up until this point, there's been the big no will they won't they kind of thing. And also by this time, a new doctor has joined the practice by the name of Dr. Peter Prentice, played by Adam Pally, who is another actor I really love, and he was in Happy Endings. He was also in The To-Do List, another Bill Hader movie that was written and directed by his wife at the time. He was having his afternoon porn break after lunch, and he came across a sex tape featuring her and Tom. And she has no idea how it got up there. They go down to Tom's office, confront him about this.
Why is our sex tape on the internet?
I had nothing to do with that. I swear on my mother's grave, I had nothing to do with that. No, wait, I had something to do with that. Oh my gosh. I lent it to my brother when he got divorced.
What?
If it makes any difference, it really helped. He had a bad case of the blues.
To try to keep the sex tape low-key, because he just started dating his dental assistant. Apparently she's turned him super Christian. And he doesn't want to get in trouble. So she asks him to bring the DVD to her office, which he does, and puts it on her desk with a Post-it, and some papers get put on top of it. At the beginning of the episode, Danny comes down with meningitis and ends up in the hospital. Well, with a bunch of paper that Danny was brought in there, mixed in with that is the DVD. So, of course, he puts it has a note on it saying, hopefully this will cheer you up. And thinking that's something that Mindy made for him. And then, of course, he sees the tape. My personal favorite part of this whole thing is once Mindy comes in to explain about the tape, they still got the thing running in the background. And there's this one point where Bill is basically just jumping up in the background. I guess he's trying to jump on top of her or something. I don't know. It's one of those out of the corner eye you'll miss the kind of things, but once I saw that just totally got me laughing. Peter brings Tom to explain about the sex tape.
I don't think Mindy ever really liked me that much, okay? I think we did all the freaky sex stuff because we didn't like spending time with each other. And when I say freaky, I mean really freaky. Did you ever tape any of that? Most of it. What?
Mindy actually comes off with meningitis as well. And they sort of end the episode with them reading Bridget Jones' Diary in the hospital bed together, which was kind of cute. The relationship between him and his dental assistant, because she's she's pretty, but she seems very, 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 kind of bland during the confrontation. Was working on someone's mouth. Apparently they replaced her gums with the gums from a cadaver.
Yeah, this was a funny episode. And again, like I said, this is another example of a comedy that could have only been produced in 2013, 2014, but in a good way. This is just in the way that comedy that revolves around a sex tape can have a surprisingly sweet ending where people get back together with the ones they're meant to be with.
And apparently everyone back then had a sex tape. You were nothing if you didn't have a sex tape.
Right. And I like their depiction of sex tapes from the brief things we saw. Like, we only saw just heads poking up from behind a couch and Bill going, whoa, at one. So, yeah, it's just, they just focused on just sheer goofiness to get around Fox's standards and practices. And,
well, just that one leap I mentioned with him in the background is, when you see it, it's just, I don't know what just amused me about that. It's almost like he's kind of jumping like a monkey, but not quite, so pops up out of nowhere.
And, going back to the start of this episode, I like Danny trying to call 27 girls after stopping him from hooking up with Mindy. And like 20 of them at least are named Caitlin, but none of them would hook up with him. The last one was just a hooker with prices he couldn't afford. And Adam Pally, is a good addition to this. I like seeing him and stuff, and he plays a really good doofus in this.
Yeah, my favorite line. Before you get all judgy Reinhold on me.
And speaking of just like guys who are comedians in the 2000s who I just like seeing when they show up and stuff, when they go to the site sploders.com, which again, just a comment on what online porn was like in the 2000s. I
think it's probably related to Brazzers.com.
Right.
Don't ask me how I know that.
So they go to the source, which is Sploders, and one of the big CEOs of Sploders was Rob Hubel, who's been in style mainly known from Human Giant with Paul Scheer and Aziz Ansari, one of the guys that they have to meet with to get the tape taken down, which they refuse to at first because they're too rich and there are too few Indian BBWs out there, which are a growing market. BBW stands for Big Beautiful Woman, as they explain in this episode, which is why I know that. Then Paul and the guys from Sploders reveal they're both Dartmouth D-bags, so they do this to, bros before hoes thing. They do this to help each other out. Then Paul finds out about Mindy and Danny, who he thinks are porking because now they both have meningitis at the same time. Also, apparently this was part 2 of a 2-parter, but you would not know it if you didn't watch part 1, because there's no, like previously in the Mindy Project, there's no indication that this is not a standalone plot line. And since I went on IMDb to research which episodes the character of Tom McDougal was in, there's no indication in part 1 or in any other episode we didn't just cover that Mindy and Tom decide to make the sex tape together. So that's interesting. Again, watching the Mindy Project in machete order is a bit of an interesting thrill ride. And that's the episode, and that's the end of Bill's run on the Mindy Project. The next episode, I thought I'd just borrow an idea that Deej pitched to me on the SNL front. I thought we'd just do another full-length review of the Matt Dillon and Arctic Monkeys episode from season 31, which aired on March 11th, 2006. Another surprisingly good episode from Bill from his first season, even though we did just talk at length about the one Vincent Price sketch that was from that episode. It was another one that has enough strong Bill moments.
We're going to go through the episodes where it had the most stuff in it first. And then we'll do a basic recap of because during his first season, he wasn't in a lot of things. Once we go through the individual episodes we want to highlight, then we'll just go through a best of this. There's all the bits they did through the rest of 31. So hopefully you have enjoyed this edition of We Heart Hater. And we have now expanded our realm to YouTube. So I think we've pretty much covered all the basic platforms. TikTok, I've been posting a lot to that. Got our episode previews up to sort of get people to know that, hey, we have a YouTube channel now, or we actually, the fact that we have a podcast. Because the early days promotion is always kind of tricky. You can find us on Blue Sky, Twitter, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Music, Audible.
And we do have an active TikTok page. Yep. So we're really covering all the bases, especially with Gen Z out there. So, because recently I was able to log into the TikTok. Apparently, downloads of TikTok are no longer banned here in the States. Yeah. So
At least for now, until they decide to goof up with it again.
So I can get on TikTok and help with some of the promotion like I do with the...
Though I have discovered that I absolutely hate editing TikTok content on my phone. I was trying to do it when I was at my sister's place on the weekend, taking care of her cat, and I was just getting so frustrated. But luckily, I can actually go online on the website and just edit things through my editing program, which we use Wondershare Filmora. If anything from doing this podcast, my technical abilities with not only editing audio, but also doing stuff for the various platforms has helped me hone those skills a lot better. And of course, Casey takes care of all our thumbnails for all the episodes.
I do just edit random images of Bill related to the things he's in we're talking about. I just throw those together and put text on them in an app called PhotoGrid, if you can tell by the watermark, because I'm not going to pay for that right now. But
we've also changed our recording the podcast to Podcastle, which I'm finding the interface is a lot easier than the one we were using before. So that's just some of the insights of the technical background of what we do here at We Heart Hater. So thank you very much for joining us again. I am Deej Barons and will continue to be.
And I will still be Casey Killingsworth until I'm notified otherwise.
And what do we do, Casey Killingsworth?
Deej, what we do is We Heart Hater, as always.
Thank you for listening to We Heart Hater. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. We Heart Hater is a presentation of Wacky Notion Productions. Created by Deej Barons. Hosted by Deej Barons and Casey Killingsworth. Recording and editing by Deej Barons. Intro and outro music by Music Unlimited, used under Creative Commons license, courtesy of pixabay.com.